If you talk to yourself like this for 3 days, everything will change. Not in 3 years, not in 3 months, 3 days. Think about this. You are the only person you listen to all day long. You wake up hearing your own voice. You go to sleep with your own thoughts. You drive, you work, you cook, you clean, and in the background there is a constant conversation going on inside you. My question to you today is this: what are you telling yourself? Many are rebuking the devil while agreeing with him in their own mind. They pray for open doors but speak closed doors over themselves. They ask God for a new season while repeating the language of the old one. And then they wonder, why is nothing changing? Your life does not just respond to what you pray, it responds to what you say, especially what you say to yourself. As a person thinks inside, that is who they become. As a person talks to themselves, that is the direction their life moves. If for 3 days, just 3 days, you change the way you spoke to yourself, you would begin to see relationships differently, opportunities differently, even God differently. 3 days of kingdom conversation with yourself can do more than 3 years of complaining. If you talk to yourself like this for 3 days, everything will change. Not in 3 years, not in 3 months, 3 days. Think about this. You are the only person you listen to all day long. You wake up hearing your own voice. You go to sleep with your own thoughts. You drive, you work, you cook, you clean, and in the background, there's a constant conversation going on inside you. My question to you today is this: what are you telling yourself? Many are rebuking the devil while agreeing with him in their own mind. They pray for open doors but speak closed doors over themselves. They ask God for a new season while repeating the language of the old one. And then they wonder, why is nothing changing? Your life does not just respond to what you pray. It responds to what you say, especially what you say to yourself. As a person thinks inside, that is who they become. As a person talks to themselves, that is the direction their life moves. If for 3 days, just 3 days, you change the way you spoke to yourself, you would begin to see relationships differently, opportunities differently, even God differently. 3 days of kingdom conversation with yourself can do more than 3 years of complaining. Let me paint a picture for you. A young man came to me some time ago and said, I feel stuck. I pray, I fast, I go to church, but my life is not moving. You could see the frustration in his eyes. He said, every time I try something, I fail. Maybe this is just who I am. I listened to him speak for about 10 minutes. He used words like always, never, can't, not good enough, nobody helps me, I'm just like this. No demon was talking. No enemy was talking. He was talking. His own mouth had become his personal prophet of defeat. I told him, your problem is not your past. Your problem is the conversation you keep having about your past. Your problem is not that you failed. Your problem is you call yourself a failure. Then I gave him an assignment. For 3 days, you are not allowed to insult yourself. For 3 days, you are not allowed to call yourself stupid, slow, broken, hopeless. For 3 days, every time you talk to yourself, you must speak like a citizen of the kingdom, not like a victim of the system. He looked at me like it was too simple. We always want something deep, something mystical, something complicated. But the kingdom often operates through simple, powerful principles. Change your mind, change your words, change your world. After those 3 days, he came back and said, I feel lighter. I didn't get a new job yet, but I don't feel like the same person. What changed? Not his salary, not his house, his inner language. If you talk to yourself like this for 3 days, everything will begin to change. Your atmosphere will change. Your decisions will change. Your confidence will change, because your inner conversation is the steering wheel of your life. When you open your mouth to speak to yourself, you are either agreeing with heaven's definition of you or you are repeating the earth's opinion of you. Identity is not a small matter. It is the foundation of everything you do. The enemy is not just after your money, your job, or your relationships. He is after your sense of who you are. If he can confuse your identity, he can control your behavior. If you don't know who you are, you will accept anything, tolerate anything, and settle for anything. So when I say talk to yourself according to your God-given identity, not your situation, I am not talking about positive thinking. I am talking about kingdom alignment. I am talking about bringing your inner conversation into agreement with the King's decree about your life. Think of this. When God speaks to a person in Scripture, he rarely calls them by their current condition. He calls them by their divine identity. Gideon is hiding, afraid, threshing wheat in a wine press, but heaven calls him mighty man of valor. Why? Because God does not speak from the level of your fear. He speaks from the level of your purpose. Yet many of us do the opposite. We call ourselves by the level of our fear, our failures, our disappointments. We say, I'm just broken. I'm just average. I'm nothing special. How can you expect to walk like a citizen of the kingdom while speaking like a slave to your circumstances? How can you reign in life if you keep rehearsing the language of defeat inside your own mind? Your situation is temporary. Your identity is eternal. Your bank account can change. Your job can change. Even your health can change. But who you are in the eyes of God does not fluctuate with the economy, the opinions of people, or the storms of life. The problem is not that the identity is in there. The problem is you have not internalized it in your self-talk. You have allowed your environment to become your dictionary. You have allowed your experiences to become your definition. Let me ask you a serious question. Who has the right to define you? Is it your past? Is it your mistakes? Is it what your parents said? Is it what your teacher told you in anger? Or is it the one who created you, shaped you, and called you by name before you were formed in your mother's womb? Imagine a prince raised in a foreign land where nobody tells him he is royalty. He grows up working as a servant, thinking he is ordinary, eating scraps, bowing to others, and apologizing for existing. Not because he is not a prince, but because he thinks he is not a prince. His problem is not his bloodline. His problem is his belief. His language about himself does not match his true nature. That is how many of God's people live. They are royalty speaking like refugees. They are heirs speaking like victims. They are light speaking like darkness. And as long as they keep calling themselves nothing, nobody, never enough, they will behave according to that script. You will always act in agreement with the identity you repeat to yourself the most. So for these 3 days, you must begin to confront that inner script. When your mind says you are a failure, you answer, I failed in some things, but I am not a failure. My identity is not my mistake. My identity is in my maker. When your heart whispers, you are unlovable, you respond, my worth is not measured by who left me. It is established by the one who chose me. This is not denial. This is spiritual warfare at the level of identity. You are refusing to let your situation sit on the throne of your mind. You are dethroning your pain and enthroning your purpose. You are saying, I will no longer introduce myself to myself by my wounds. I will introduce myself to myself by his word. Look at your own life. How many times have you said, that's just who I am, when in reality, that was who trauma trained you to be, not who God created you to be? How many times have you used your personality, your upbringing, or your culture as a prison for your potential? You say, I'm just shy, I'm just angry, I'm just disorganized, I'm just this, I'm just that. And you don't realize You are prophesying over your own life with casual phrases. For 3 days, you must stop carelessly naming yourself. Every label you accept shapes your behavior. Every word you repeat becomes part of the internal environment in which your destiny either flourishes or suffocates. Ask yourself, if my child spoke to themselves the way I speak to myself, would I be pleased? If the answer is no, then why do you allow what you would not permit in them to live in you? Talking to yourself according to your God-given identity means you learn to say what heaven says even when your feelings disagree. You may feel weak, but you say, I am strengthened by the Lord. You may feel overlooked, but you say, I am seen, I am known, I am called. You may feel like you have nothing to offer, but you say, I am gifted, I am equipped, and there is something God put in me that the earth needs. You are not inventing a fantasy. You are acknowledging a spiritual reality. Faith does not ignore facts. Faith introduces higher truth to lower facts. The higher truth is that you are made in the image of God, that you carry His breath, that you have been given a measure of grace and a specific assignment only you can fulfill. For 3 days, you must become intentional. When you look in the mirror, don't just check your hair, check your words. Don't just ask, do I look okay? Ask, what am I saying to the person in this mirror? Because that person is listening. That person is absorbing every phrase, every insult, every affirmation. Speak to that person as God would speak. Call out their potential. Remind them of their calling. Tell them you are not what happened to you. You are not what they did to you. You are not the sum of your failures. You are who God says you are. And say it again, and say it again, and say it again until your heart begins to agree. If you dare to talk to yourself according to your God-given identity and not your situation, even for just 3 days, something will begin to shift. You will feel your shoulders straighten, your decisions sharpen, your expectations rise. Because once identity changes, everything changes. When you see yourself differently, you choose differently, you walk differently, you live differently. So start now. Talk to yourself like royalty. Talk to yourself like purpose. Talk to yourself like destiny on assignment. Talk to yourself according to your God-given identity, not your situation. And watch your situation begin to bow to who you really are. Fear is a preacher. It has a voice, it has a message, and it has a pulpit in your mind. It stands up every morning and starts preaching. You can't do it. You will fail. You are not qualified. Something bad is going to happen. The tragedy is not just that fear speaks. The tragedy is that many of us sit there and listen, nod our heads, and then repeat its sermon to ourselves all day long. We make fear our personal prophet. But in the kingdom, you cannot afford to echo what fear is whispering when God has already spoken something greater over your life. Your self-talk must choose a side. Either you are in agreement with fear or you are in agreement with God. You cannot claim His promises while rehearsing fear's predictions inside. When God speaks, He never speaks from anxiety. He does not sit in heaven worrying about your tomorrow. He does not look at your background and say, I'm not sure if this will work. God speaks from a place of total authority, total knowledge, and total victory. His word is settled. His word is sure. His word does not shake when the economy shakes, when people betray you, or when plans change. Fear, however, speaks from imagination without revelation. It takes your worst memories, combines them with your darkest thoughts, and paints pictures of disaster. And then you wake up and say to yourself, I just know something will go wrong. My question to you is simple. Who told you that? Did God tell you that? Or did fear tell you that? Think about the spies who went into the promised land. They all saw the same giants, the same walls, the same cities. 10 of them came back speaking fear. We can't do it. We are like grasshoppers in our own eyes. Notice, the battle was not first with giants outside. It was with the words they spoke inside. 2 of them, however, spoke in alignment with God. We are well able. If God delights in us, He will give us the land. Same land, different language. Same giants, different self-talk. The difference between entering the promise and dying in the wilderness was the voice they chose to agree with. What about you? When you see a challenge, do you immediately give fear the microphone in your mind? Or do you say to yourself, if God is with me, then this obstacle is not the end. It is an opportunity. You must learn to answer fear. Don't just feel afraid, respond to it. Fear says, you will lose everything. You say, my life is in God's hands, not in the hands of circumstances. Fear says, you will fail again. You say, even if I fall, I will rise again, because the righteous man falls and gets back up. Fear says, you are alone. You say, I will never be alone. He promised never to leave me nor forsake me. When you talk to yourself for these 3 days, you are not allowed to let fear have the last word. Fear can knock, but you decide who answers the door. Fear can whisper, but you decide whose voice you repeat. Many believers pray in faith and then talk in fear. They ask God for a job and then tell themselves they will probably reject me again. They pray for healing and then say, I always stay sick. They ask God to use them and then talk to themselves like they are useless. That is spiritual contradiction. That is a divided tongue. For 3 days, your assignment is to bring your tongue into agreement with your prayers. If you pray like you believe, then you must talk to yourself like you believe. Faith is not complete when it leaves your lips in prayer. It must continue when it returns to your ears in self-talk. Imagine a child learning to walk. The child stands up, falls. Stands up again, falls again. What does a loving parent say? They do not stand over the child and shout, you see, you'll never walk. Just stay down. No, they cheer, they call, they encourage. Come on, you can do it. Try again. I'm right here. That is how God speaks to you. That is how heaven talks. But some of you play the role of the cruel parent to your own soul. Every time you stumble, you say, see, you're useless. You'll never change. Just stop trying. For 3 days, it is time to change roles. Stop agreeing with the critic in your head and start agreeing with the Father who calls you forward. Talking to yourself in alignment with what God has spoken is not about ignoring danger. It is about refusing to glorify it. It is not about denying challenges. It is about refusing to let challenges define you. You acknowledge the storm, but you do not speak like the storm is your God. You acknowledge the mountain, but you do not talk like the mountain is your master. You acknowledge fear, but you do not treat fear as your teacher. You let God's word be the loudest voice in your mind. For 3 days, every time fear whispers, you will answer with truth. Every time fear paints a picture of defeat, you will paint a picture of victory with your words. If you dare to do this, your heart will begin to shift. Your inner world will start to feel different. Confidence will not appear from nowhere. It will grow from the seeds of your agreement with God. So decide today, I will not repeat fear's sermon in my own soul. I will speak what God has spoken. I will talk to myself like someone who believes that heaven has the final word over my life. And when your self-talk agrees with God, fear loses its power to control your future. The kingdom never introduces you to yourself by your past. It always introduces you by your future. God does not come to you and say, hello failure, hello broken one, hello mistake. He comes and calls you by what you are becoming in his purpose. That is why if you are going to experience real change, you must learn to talk to yourself from your future, not from your past. Your past is a place of reference, not a place of residence. You look at it to learn, but you do not live there. Yet many people set a permanent address in their history and then wonder why their destiny feels delayed. If you talk like your past, think like your past, and label yourself with your past, how can you expect your life to move into the future God designed? When God called Abram, he did not say, "Oh, you barren old man with no children." He called him father of many nations. While his tent was still quiet and his arms were still empty, heaven spoke from the future, not from the present. Heaven did not wait for the situation to change before changing the language. That is a kingdom principle. God will often speak to you in a way that feels too big for your current reality. He will say you are a leader when no one is following. He will say you are blessed when your bank account is shaking. He will say you are healed while your body is still fighting symptoms. The question is, what will you repeat to yourself? Will you echo your history or will you echo his prophecy? Will you talk to yourself like a prisoner of what happened or like a carrier of what is coming? Your past wants to be your teacher, but it also wants to be your jailer. It will show up in your mind saying, remember when you failed that exam? Remember when that relationship collapsed? Remember when that business closed? Remember how embarrassed you were? And then it quietly suggests, this is just who you are. If you agree, you start to speak from that place. You say things like, I always mess things up. I never get it right. I'm not the type of person who succeeds. People like me don't go far. That is not just memory. That is self-sabotage. That is letting your past write your future script. You are giving yesterday the authority to define tomorrow. In the kingdom, that is illegal. Only the king has the right to define your destiny. Talking to yourself from your future does not mean lying to yourself. It means aligning with what God has already designed. If God sees you as fruitful, why do you keep calling yourself barren? If God sees you as wise, why do you keep calling yourself foolish? If God sees you as an overcomer, why do you keep calling yourself a victim? You may say, but I don't see it yet. That is the point. Faith sees before sight sees. Faith talks before circumstances talk back. Faith uses the language of the destination while the feet are still in the desert. The children of Israel were out of Egypt, but Egypt was still in their language. Every time pressure came, they said, let's go back. This is too hard. We were better off as slaves. Their bodies were marching to the promise, but their self-talk kept pointing backward. Is that you? Are your feet in church and your language still in bondage? Are your hands lifted in worship while your inner conversation still says, nothing will really change for me? For 3 days, you must practice prophetic self-talk. You stand in the present, but you speak from your future. You look at your weakness and say, I am becoming disciplined. You see your financial mess and say, I am learning to be a wise steward. You notice your emotional reactions and say, I am growing in self-control. I am not who I used to be, and I refuse to keep talking as if I am. You talk to yourself as if you are on your way somewhere, not stuck nowhere. You talk to yourself as if transformation is in motion, not as if you are frozen in your worst season. Think of an architect holding a blueprint. The land might be empty, muddy, overgrown with weeds. But when the architect speaks, they do not describe the weeds, they describe the building. They talk as if walls already stand, windows already shine, people already live inside. That is how God speaks over you. That is how you must begin to speak over yourself. Yes, there are weeds of habits, patterns, and old thinking. But there is also a blueprint of purpose. Every time you talk to yourself from your past, you describe the weeds. Every time you talk to yourself from your future, you describe the building. Which one are you reinforcing? You might say, but what if I don't feel like this future person I'm declaring? You won't at first. The feelings follow the formation. The emotions follow the confession. You are training your soul to adjust to a new identity. You are stretching your mind to live in a new atmosphere. That is why repetition is critical. You do not say it once and walk away. You say it again and again. I am growing. I am maturing. I am being transformed. I am moving forward. I am becoming who God saw when He created me. You keep saying it until your decisions start matching it. You keep saying it until your habits start reflecting it. You keep saying it until the people around you begin to notice a different posture in you. If you insist on talking to yourself from your failures, you will unconsciously protect those failures. You will avoid new opportunities. You will sabotage relationships. You will resist growth just to prove your old story right. But if you dare to talk to yourself from your future in God, even for 3 days, something will begin to break. Cycles will feel uncomfortable. Old patterns will feel out of place. Your comfort zone will start to feel too small for the person you are becoming. That is the power of future-focused self-talk. It makes yesterday's cage too tight for tomorrow's you. So for these 3 days, refuse to let your past be the loudest voice in your inner conversation. Refuse to let old seasons keep naming your new season. Talk to yourself like someone on a journey. Talk to yourself like someone under construction. Talk to yourself like someone whose best days are not behind them, but ahead of them. When you talk to yourself from your future, not your past, your life begins to move in the direction of what God has already seen, and your tomorrow will no longer be held hostage by your yesterday. Blame is comfortable, but it is costly. It feels good in the moment to say, it's their fault. They hurt me. They didn't support me. They left me. They blocked me. Blame gives you a temporary sense of relief because it removes responsibility from your hands. But listen carefully. Whenever you surrender responsibility, you also surrender authority. The one you blame becomes the one you empower. If they are the reason you are down, then they must be the reason you get up. If they are the cause of your pain, then they must also be the source of your healing. That is a dangerous position to live in. In the kingdom, you cannot afford to give another human being that level of control over your future. That is why, for these 3 days, you must talk to yourself with responsibility, not with blame. From the very beginning in the garden, we see this pattern. When God asked Adam what happened, Adam said, "The woman you gave me." He blamed his wife and indirectly blamed God. When God asked Eve, she said, "The serpent deceived me." Both covered themselves with explanation instead of humbling themselves with ownership. And humanity has been repeating that pattern ever since. We blame our upbringing, our culture, our environment, our leaders, our ex-partners, our bosses, our children. We blame the system, the government, even the devil for decisions we keep making. I am not saying people did not hurt you. I am not saying they were innocent. But I am saying this. They might be responsible for the wound, but you are responsible for what you do with it now. They might have started the story, but you are responsible for how it continues. Talking to yourself with responsibility sounds very different from talking with blame. Blame says they ruined my life. Responsibility says they hurt me, but I will not stay broken. With God's help, I will heal. Blame says if they had supported me, I would be further by now. Responsibility says they did not support me, but God is my source, and I will still rise. Blame says this is just how my family is, so I can't change. Responsibility says my family may have been this way, but I am called to break patterns and start a new legacy. Can you feel the difference? One voice chains you to the past. The other opens the door to a different future. Think of a driver in a car. who keeps crashing into the same wall. After the third or fourth crash, imagine them saying, it's the wall's fault. These walls hate me. The road is against me. That sounds ridiculous, but many people do that emotionally and spiritually. They keep making the same choices, entering the same kind of relationships, mishandling the same kind of opportunities. And every time the crash comes, they say, people are always doing this to me. The truth is, sometimes people did do wrong. But if every season looks the same, you must ask yourself, what is my part in this? What am I choosing? What am I allowing? What am I ignoring? Responsibility is not condemnation. Responsibility is clarity. Responsibility is strength. For these 3 days, your self-talk must shift from explaining your chains to planning your exit. Stop telling yourself the story of who didn't love you, who didn't see you, who didn't pick you. You've told yourself that story for years. You know it by heart. You can recite it in your sleep. Where has it taken you? How has it changed you? It might have justified your pain, but it has not produced your progress. So instead of repeating, no one ever helps me, begin to say, I am going to learn what I need to learn. I am going to seek wisdom. I am going to take the next step I can take. Instead of saying, I am like this because of them, start saying, I am responsible for my decisions from this day forward. I cannot change what they did, but I can choose what I do now. Responsibility is not saying everything is your fault. It is saying your response is your choice. Joseph was betrayed by his brothers, falsely accused, thrown into prison. He could have spent his life saying, my family ruined me. That woman destroyed my reputation. I am in this cell because people are evil. But his inner language did not stop at blame. He took responsibility for his attitude, his work, his integrity, his faith. Because of that, when the door opened, he was ready to govern, not just complain. Many doors remain closed, not because God is unwilling, but because if he opened them, your self-talk would still be rehearsing blame instead of embracing responsibility. Leadership begins in the way you talk to yourself about your own life. Ask yourself honestly, how many sentences in your inner conversation start with they and them? And how many start with I before God? They never support me versus I will grow, whether they support me or not. They always hurt me versus I will learn healthier boundaries and discernment. They don't appreciate me versus I will steward my gift faithfully. Wherever I am, because I work as unto the Lord. For these 3 days, catch yourself every time you begin to narrate your life as if everyone else is the main character and you are just a victim in their story. Gently, firmly, change it. Tell yourself, I am not powerless. In Christ, I am empowered to choose, to learn, to grow, to change. When you talk to yourself with responsibility, something powerful happens inside. Self-pity begins to lose its flavor. Bitterness starts to taste different. You begin to feel restless in the places you used to sit and blame. You start asking new questions. What can I do with what I have? What step can I take next? Where can I grow? Who can I forgive? What can I learn from this? That is a kingdom mindset. That is the mentality of someone who is moving forward, not circling the same mountain year after year. So for these 3 days, refuse to make blame your pillow. Refuse to let excuses be your comfort. Talk to yourself like a person who is taking their life back under God. Say to yourself, I cannot rewrite yesterday, but I can decide today. I cannot control others, but I can control my response. I cannot change how it started. But with God's grace, I can change how it ends. When you stop rehearsing who is to blame and start declaring who will take responsibility, you will feel a new strength rise within you. And once responsibility enters your self-talk, your future is no longer at the mercy of your past. Change is not the child of one emotional moment. It is the fruit of repeated alignment. Most people are waiting for a big breakthrough, a dramatic encounter, a powerful service, a prophetic word that suddenly makes everything different. But listen carefully. Even if fire falls from heaven, if your daily language stays the same, your life will slowly drift back to where it was. One encounter can ignite you, but only consistency will sustain you. This is why you cannot afford to talk to yourself correctly just once in a while. You cannot speak life on Sunday and then speak death to yourself Monday through Saturday. For these 3 days and beyond, your self-talk must become consistent, intentional, and disciplined. Think of your mind like soil. You do not plant a seed once and then say, that's it, I'm done for life. No, you water, you guard, you tend, you pull out weeds. In the same way, your words to yourself are seeds. One positive statement in the morning cannot compete with 12 hours of negative, careless talk the rest of the day. You tell yourself, I am chosen, I am loved for 5 minutes, and then repeat, I'm so stupid, I always mess up, nothing ever works for me, for the next 10 hours. Which seeds do you think will dominate your garden? The ones you sow occasionally or the ones you sow continually? The kingdom operates by principles. And one of those principles is simple. What you sow consistently, you will eventually see. The enemy understands the power of repetition. That's why his lies are not random. They are consistent. The same accusation, the same fear, the same shame, the same memory comes back again and again. Why? Because if you hear it enough and repeat it enough, it becomes your internal truth, even if it is not God's truth. That's why your response must also be consistent. You cannot counter a daily lie with a yearly declaration. You cannot fight a constant voice with a rare correction. If fear speaks every morning, then truth must speak every morning. If condemnation rises every time you fail, then grace must rise every time you fail. This is not a one-time event. This is a lifestyle. The psalmist spoke to his own soul. Why are you cast down, O my soul? He did not just feel low and accept it as final. He addressed himself. He challenged his inner condition. He repeatedly told his soul, hope in God. That is self-talk in alignment with heaven. But notice, he did not say it once. He said it again and again. Sometimes you must preach to yourself more than the world preaches to you. Sometimes you must encourage yourself more than life discourages you. Sometimes you must speak promise to yourself more than your circumstances speak problems to you. This is consistency. Imagine a person going to the gym once a month and expecting the body of an athlete. They show up, do a heavy workout, take pictures, feel motivated, and then disappear for 30 days. Nothing will change. It is not the intensity of what they do once. It is the consistency of what they do regularly. The same is true with your inner life. You can have a powerful moment of self-affirmation, a strong burst of kingdom confession, but if you vanish back into old patterns of speech, your mind will not be transformed. Transformation is not an event. It is a process. And that process is built on what you repeatedly allow yourself to hear from your own mouth. For 3 days, you are training your tongue. You are retraining your internal atmosphere. That means you cannot wait until you feel inspired to speak the right words. Feelings are terrible leaders. They are good indicators, but bad masters. There will be moments over these 3 days where you do not feel strong, you do not feel chosen, you do not feel hopeful. That is exactly when consistency matters most. You open your mouth and you say what needs to be said, not what you feel like saying. You say, I am growing, I am changing, God is working in me. You say it when your emotions are on fire, and you say it when your emotions are flat. That's how foundations are laid, stone upon stone, day after day, not by one dramatic swing of the hammer. Think about how you talk to yourself when you make mistakes. For many, that is the least consistent area. On good days, they can say, God is with me, I'm moving forward, but the moment they fall, their language changes completely. You see, you're hopeless. You'll never get this right. Just give up. In that moment, your self-talk either becomes your enemy or your coach. Consistency means that even when you stumble, your inner voice still speaks from faith, still speaks from grace, still speaks from identity. You might say, I messed up, but I am not a mess. I failed in this moment, but I am not a permanent failure. I repent, I learn, I rise, and I continue. That is consistent, kingdom-minded self-talk. Guarding your mouth like a gate is a daily discipline. You will catch old phrases trying to sneak out. I'm so dumb. I'm always late. People like me never succeed. They will come out of habit. Don't be discouraged when you hear them. See it as an opportunity. Every time you catch one, you have a chance to replace it. You can stop mid-sentence and correct yourself. No, that's not who I am anymore. I am learning. I am improving. I am being transformed. Every correction is a brick in a new internal structure. Every correction is evidence that your mind is being renewed. If you give yourself 3 days of consistent, disciplined, kingdom-aligned self-talk, something deep will begin to shift. You will start to notice your reactions changing, your mood stabilizing, your courage rising, not because your entire life changed overnight, but because the foundation underneath your life began to change. And once the foundation shifts, everything built upon it cannot stay the same. So decide that you will not just visit truth, you will live in it. You will not just visit faith, you will live in it. You will not just visit hope, you will live in it. Talk to yourself consistently, not occasionally. Talk to yourself faithfully, not randomly. Talk to yourself as someone who is building a future, not someone who is drifting through life. Because the words you repeat will one day become the world you inhabit. And when you choose consistency in your self-talk, you choose consistency in your transformation. You have spent years talking to yourself without even noticing it. Quiet sentences, hidden phrases, secret agreements. Some of them were killing your confidence, poisoning your decisions, and shrinking your destiny. And you thought it was just how I am. But today, you know better. Your inner conversation is not a small thing. It is the steering wheel of your life. If you keep saying what you have always said, you will keep living how you have always lived. But if you change what you say to yourself, you will not be able to stay where you are. Your words will move you. Your words will stretch you. Your words will call you into the future God already sees. So here is the challenge. And it is very simple, but it is not easy. For 3 days, talk to yourself on purpose. For 3 days, refuse to insult yourself. For 3 days, refuse to agree with fear. For 3 days, refuse to let your past write the script of your mouth. For 3 days, refuse to hide behind blame and excuses. For 3 days, train your tongue to be consistent with your calling. Speak like a child of the King. Speak like someone with a destiny. Speak like a person who believes that heaven did not make a mistake when God created you. And when you fail in those 3 days, and you will stumble because you are learning, do not quit. Correct yourself. Realign. Start again. Imagine what could happen if you truly did this. Imagine waking up and your first words to yourself are not, here we go again, but this is another day for me to grow, to obey, to build, to become. Imagine facing a challenge. And instead of saying, I can't, you say, with God's wisdom and strength, I will try. I will learn. I will rise. Imagine Leaving a conversation where you felt misunderstood, and instead of saying, "No one cares about me," you say, "I am still valuable. I am still loved. I am still called." If you keep talking to yourself like that, shame cannot stay comfortable. Fear cannot stay loud. Smallness cannot stay normal. Something in you will begin to wake up. 3 days of this will not finish the journey, but it will break the silence. It will start a new direction. It will prove to your own heart that you do not have to be a slave to old words. From that point, it is your choice whether you go back to the old language or continue into a new lifestyle. But one thing is certain: once you taste the power of speaking life to yourself, you will never again be satisfied with cursing your own future with your own tongue. If you talk to yourself like this for 3 days, everything will begin to change, because you will begin to change, and when you change, your world cannot stay the same. Good luck on your 3-day journey of transformation, and thank you for listening.